Folks, as you're logging in, you maybe see me holding my iPhone, and so that's because my last minute test of sound did not work with my headset, so I'm actually participating via an iPhone for the audio for the audio portion. So we're going to make it work though, and hopefully I don't have to talk too much anyway. So, but we are joined today by a very illustrious, successful, wonderful panel of folks that I've personally known for quite a while, each and every one of you, and we're thankful to have you part of the Qbox reseller family, but also users. So they're going to share their stories today about using Qbox, and then we also have T.S. Srinivasan with us, who's already joined the meeting as well, and he's going to share about some of the new features that we're releasing very soon to Qbox, just kind of a high flyover, and also maybe talk about FastSync and some things that were recently released. So without any further ado, I do want to welcome you. This is officially Taste of Qbox. If you ever watch, we kind of joke some months that going all the way back to our first desktop time when we had a couple of guest hosts that gushed a little bit about Qbox, we actually were scolded later on. They said, you talk too much about Qbox. We know about Qbox. So this is our one time a year where we all get to say, look behind me, there's Qbox, and wear our shirts, and we get to tell everyone how wonderful Qbox is. So yeah, and Casey's even got, now that shirt's a classic, the Desktop Time Classic. That's a classic shirt. So today we're all going to share stories about, and there's another one too, I see. We're going to share stories about Qbox experience, how it's worked for you. If you have any questions, we are going to have a panel discussion kind of towards the end of the hour, but you, of course, can ask questions at any time if you like. We'd be more than happy to answer those for you. So, but again, welcome. We're very happy to have you here. Qbox is the host of Desktop Time, and we'll talk a little bit more about next year at the end, because we are going to have another possible guest host next year. But we thank you. Qbox, of course, has been around now for about 8 years. We work primarily with desktop QuickBooks, and so that's why we hence started Desktop Time, because we wanted folks to know that there's ways you can get the most of the cloud by using a product that even runs on your desktop. And so today we're going to talk about that a little bit further, and also just as a reminder, we know QB Connect is right around the corner, and we're happy to sponsor that again this year. We also, day after tomorrow, will be at the NATP California version show for them in San Diego. So if you happen to be down in that area hanging out, come by and see us at the Embassy Suites in La Jolla. So again, without any further ado, because we are going to run a little bit of a tight schedule today, I'm going to turn the floor over to Gina. And Gina, of course, has her own web show that she does every Friday now, right?
Yes, Friday afternoons.
Okay. And Gina's also a financial professional, so she has a lot to share with us, and we're going to go ahead and turn the floor over to her for the next 5 minutes. That's it.
I'll keep it short. I'm first. Yay! So I'll start out with my client. I've been supporting for over 15 years. I've been supporting them as a QuickBooks Pro advisor, and I would regularly have to go and physically pick up a database with a thumb drive and bring it back to the office, driving to their facility and driving back. So half a day was wasted, usually more than that, because I like to hang out and talk with them too. So that was originally how I supported them, and then Qbox came along. Well, this particular client is networked. They actually have a server and 4 dedicated computer workstations, and they've been using multi-user mode. So we had to wait until Qbox was able to do that. But once Qbox was able to do that, I got them right on it. So now I no longer have to run over and pick up their database. I'm able to log on whenever I need to. They do their things. They work in the multi-user mode during the day. And then once a month, I typically go in and I do the bank reconciliations. I can do this from home. I can do this at any time I want, and it's immediately available to them when they come in the next day. So that's my Qbox success story.
Okay, thank you, Gina. And actually, what Gina was referring to is we now have a function called Qbox MU. So if you have a group of folks that need to work simultaneously within a local area network, Qbox now has the ability to understand that. So in most cases, we need to help set up peer-to-peer, and we have the capability to do that, and we can talk more about that offline. But thank you very much for sharing, Gina. Again, we've been very grateful for your business and also your relationship with Qbox. Actually, was thinking the other day about being on your show. It used to be called Hangout, right, on Friday?
When we did Google, we had so many technical difficulties with Google, we moved to Zoom.
Okay. So, yeah, and as you can tell, we use Zoom, of course, now too. But anyways, we have a former Google employee here who's actually a really sharp guy. So, but anyways, we greatly appreciate your interaction with Qbox, your support of our product, and thank you so much for joining us today, Gina. And I'm also going to now turn it over to Mr. Matthew Fulton, who he's very shy. He doesn't like talking on these kind of things. He's kind of withdrawn, so I may have to kind of drag things out of him to get him to talk. But Matthew, I'm going to turn the floor over to you for the next five minutes. And again, I'm practicing my signals here. So, but again, I'm not worried about Matthew because he's a pretty shy guy. He doesn't talk a whole lot, so I know he's not going to. I'm going to have to really beat him to get 5 minutes out of him. So. But anyways, he's been an incredibly good business friend to Qbox, a great friend in general, and so we're very happy to have him here with us today. So Matthew, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Hi, I'm Matthew. I like Qbox. Thank you. Just kidding. No, Qbox is a phenomenal application. Anybody who has heard me talk about it before knows how much we support it. We actually came up with a specific workflow we like to call the Remote Accountants Toolbox that combines Qbox with our app Vendor Sync as well as another one, Ledger Sync, to bring the power of the cloud back to desktop. And Qbox is the core piece of the entire workflow. And it makes it to where no matter where I'm at, we can work with clients from all over the United States thanks to Qbox. Now, my favorite story to tell about Qbox is probably a little bit different than everybody else's. We had a client that we set up with Qbox quite some time ago. It was with a local plumbing company. And the office manager at first was very grumpy about the fact, we don't need another software. We don't need this, everything else. So we introduced it to them, get them to start using it. They actually like it, makes it to where we can all work on things when we need to. But he really started to love it after his computer got hit by ransomware. And when ransomware hit, fortunately, Qbox had a great backup of everything. So instead of losing everything, he lost about 2 hours worth. Now, I can't even make this up. We get all of the information back to, computer setup, all these things handled. Within 2 months, his computer caught on fire. Literally caught on fire. But again, fortunately, thanks to Qbox, everything was completely backed up. So he did not lose everything. He was so happy about it. He actually took us to dinner afterwards, which was great. It was awesome. But Qbox was a lifesaver for us. Again, what Qbox really signifies is having the right tool for the job at the right time. Not everybody, not every situation is perfect for moving to an all-cloud solution, and Qbox makes it to where we can have this hybrid approach to being more efficient for our firms. So I love Qbox. How'd I do, Chris? Am I okay?
I was still a stretching signal. Amazing, great, Matt, as always. So thank you very much. And I always love Matt shared that story before, and of course you kind of giggle about it, but the reality is, I mean, it's funny. I've been helping out with support a little bit the last couple of weeks, and we have this thing we call the recovery folder. And so, people call in a panic and they forget to lock the file. And so, we even have a way we try to help people out even when they have a user error or mistake that they make. So, so we definitely are happy it's a product that's helping people when they use it the way it's designed. And then people have any problems, we hope we're providing exceptional support so we can help you out even if something quirky happens. I always tell people, software is, I'm an old guy now, and software is just kind of this quirky thing that sometimes they just don't like to behave nicely with each other, and somebody does an update and it confuses the other product. So, that's what our support team's here for, to help you if you have those types of problems. So, Anyway, so thank you very much again, Matthew, for sharing that story with us. And our next guest, I'm going to introduce Penny Lane Kroll. I see you there. Who actually is she actually is a specialist in working with contractors, right? I mean, that was,
yeah.
okay.
Hi, Chris. Hi, everybody. I'm a consultant, and I specialize in job costing and QuickBooks, and I support mostly QuickBooks desktop clients because that's what a lot of my clients prefer for their job costing. I do support other types of clients as well, usually anybody that has anything complicated. And just to expand on a little bit what Matthew said, because the first thing that you think of when he says, well, they almost lost all their data, you think, well, those dummies, why weren't they backing it up? But I did have a client lose about 6 months of data because they thought that their system was being backed up and it wasn't. So yeah, I mean, that's invaluable part of Qbox that I don't even think of. That wasn't part of my story, but yeah, it's pretty amazing. So a lot of the work that I do with clients is training via Zoom meetings and projects like setup and cleanup, but Qbox has really allowed me to expand my practice into regular support of clients with things like, I don't do bookkeeping because I'm just a consultant, but a lot of times the bookkeeper or whoever's doing the bookkeeping doesn't feel comfortable with more complicated transactions, like closing out a speculative project sale that can be really tricky, or the whip adjustments, like that's a really tricky process. So Qbox has allowed me to very easily and efficiently and at a very reasonable price bring clients on so that I can support them on a regular basis. So I have a lot of clients now where I go in, I might do complicated transactions for them intermittently. I have a couple that I even do their monthly reconciliations, and some that I just go in and I do their review and their reports and things like that, to make sure that everything is staying in order. And, I have a couple clients who are on hosted solutions, but I really much prefer Qbox. It's way easier to use. Like, I have my Qbox app. It's always running, so I just one click, I open it. There's all my clients. I just click on, open the data file, and then I'm working locally. Rather than like with the hosted solution, I have to log in to the server, and that can be a pain in the butt. So it's just a lot easier, and not to mention the price point of Qbox is a lot better than hosted solutions. And also sometimes my clients that I do support regularly, they'll have a question or a problem, maybe in between my regular thing that I go in and do, and they can just email me and say, hey, Penny, can you check this out? Or can you help me with this? And I don't have to set up a time on my schedule and a Zoom meeting and get all coordinated with them. I mean, there's some coordinating in that they can't be in the data file at the same time I am, but I can kind of just pop in when I get a chance rather than having this complicated schedule. I had another client who was in rural Texas, and I was doing like kind of a cleanup project for them. And so for a while I was working remotely with them with Zoom, but it took me like twice as long to do everything because their internet isn't super strong. It's like strong enough, but not quite. So I was just like, you guys have to get on Qbox. I've also worked with clients where like I talk to a lot of people every day because I do a lot of one-on-one short-term kind of training sessions. And in working with these clients, I refer people to Qbox all the time. I mean, heaven forbid anybody says anything to me about backup and restore. Like, why would you ever do that? You don't need to do that. You just need Qbox. And they all love it. And, this one client I have that I support on this sort of ongoing basis, he has a CPA too. So it's like, yeah, invite your CPA. And she didn't know about Qbox somehow, but of course she totally loves it too. So I just don't really know how I would do everything that I do in my practice without Qbox. It's awesome.
Thank you very much, Penny, for sharing that. And one thing, and actually a question came up as you were talking about it. And so as Penny alluded to, if one person's making edits to the file, kind of our secret sauce to Qbox is they'll actually do what we call locking the file. However, remote shared users can still view the file if they want. They can also run reports. they just can't make edits to the file while someone else remotely is making edits to the file. So, and that's just the nature of the concept. And it's funny, sometimes people will ask and say, well, gee, are you ever going to figure out how to make edits simultaneously remotely? And I'll say, well, you need to go to Hosted. I don't know what to tell you, you know. You're going against the concept. So, but for people that need to do collaborative work, and we're getting a lot of wonderful comments from people of how they've used it for different scenarios. Thank you so much. For people that are okay doing that collaborative check-in, take turns type work, it's really, we think, a great solution or alternative for them. So thank you again, Penny. And in keeping us moving along, I'm going to turn the floor over to Sarah. And Sarah, I got to tell you, I was reading your bio again last night, and did you really used to restore classic cars? Is that like a real thing?
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely.
So cool.
I just named my new mascot Shelby.
Oh, very
Cars
cool.
is a Shelby Cobra, but yeah, accounting by day, grinding, paying off a car at night. Yeah. So.
Okay. Well, I believe you then. So tell us your experience with Qbox so far.
Well, I'm a 30+ year Georgia public accountant, mainly nonprofit clients, but a little bit of everything. And my business model is a team of full charge bookkeepers where we are the accounting office. So we have the QuickBooks desktop file. We have control of that file and do everything for them. The other is controller work where we review and close books and answer questions where I have clients that might have accounting staff and they answer to me, for example. So, you know, for years, you know, QuickBooks was here on our server. We've got regular desktops. I used everything from LogMeIn, I think was probably the last product that we were using for me to log into client servers to support them. But then there were all kinds of problems, like clients wanted to go to QBO. Why? Because they have a treasurer across town who just wants to see the checkbook. And, you know, so it's like, you know, I work with very complex nonprofits that are just not ready to go to QBO yet. So a couple clients, we started the hosting idea. So then I'm paying them $50 to get in, and every user is paying about $50. So the cost skyrocketed. I'm on an island. We have a lot of rural clients, so internet is spotty, so they're trying to work online, and it was just miserable. So I have a reputation for being a problem solver, and I wasn't solving this. So we had another client where I would want to log in, and she had QuickBooks open all day long, whether she was in it or not. I had you know, so, and then when you did log into the client, you had to bump them off their machine. They had to go find something else to do. Or they were sitting there watching you work, and there's nothing worse than working thinking that somebody's watching you work or watching their clock, you know. So I did some things like I hung cheap PCs off of networks, and I can dial into those, you know, so, you know, all kinds of different scenarios. Well, I don't remember, Chris, was I on Facebook or LinkedIn or something? Somebody mentioned this Qbox. I think there was a discussion about putting QuickBooks files in a Dropbox, and it was corrupting files. And somebody said, there's this new thing, and actually it wasn't quite new. It's just we hadn't seen it in our circles. This Qbox, and I'm like, Qbox. So anyway, once I realized the concept of Qbox, that I could actually work on a local environment without that darned internet speed, and I could, you know, all the beauty of being able to sync files with multiple people, I started brainstorming. And I started looking at every client who was on a hosted server and why they were on the hosted server. Not one of my clients needed to be logged in at the same time, or very rarely bumped into one another, okay? So I contacted all the clients. I've got this new tool. let's, for, a cheap box license of QuickBooks, let's just get everybody set up on their own QuickBooks. And I became an absolute hero. The money savings was unreal, especially in a nonprofit environment. It was very much appreciated. So everybody came down off of hosting. I have some clients where I'm doing both, where I may have 5 or 6 users all day long, so I can't use Qbox. But if I have to get in, I'll use actually I'm using Share Connect now. I'll log into an extra workstation and work. But I prefer after hours or on the weekends when everybody's all logged out, because I can work faster locally. So, and then the best part of Qbox, last year we replaced all the workstations with laptops. So now, even though I have a server that I'm slowly getting away from, all of my laptops are encrypted, of course, have Qbox on them. So each laptop has their own working copy of QuickBooks. And what happens? Hurricane season. Now, I don't have to freak out about hurricanes. My staff are on charge of their own client bases, and they grab that laptop and out the door they go. So I don't have to worry about, is payroll going to get out? As long as they can find the internet, those payrolls are going to get out. So that's been the biggest thing for me personally as a practitioner, is that comfort that my clients are going to be taken care of. The 20 copies up in the cloud, I tell my clients it's free off-site backups, has saved us a couple times. I think it's the greatest thing since chocolate milk. So, but anyway, yeah, I made me a hero, got everybody saving money. It has saved clients with corrupt data files or things got deleted that shouldn't have been, saving them with a backup from 3 days ago, and it saved me with the hurricane season. So I'm a big fan.
Thank you very much, Sarah. But we already got our stuff permanent for QB Connect. Otherwise, I would suggest we put on best things since chocolate milk, according to Sarah. That would be our new mantra. Because I like chocolate milk. So anyway, thank you very much. And it's interesting. We of course are most interested and passionate here about providing a good product at a fair price. And our reality is we know some people are better off on QBO. We know some people are better off on hosted. But sure, we just want them to know there's an option. So if our option better suits the needs of what they're trying to achieve, we hope to choose Qbox. So, and unfortunately, for the last 6-7 years, we haven't had, as big a marketing budget as some other folks in our space. But that's why we're so grateful for all of you and just bringing the news about Qbox and letting other folks know about it. Because that's really our growth has been, for the most part, organic based on other people sharing about it. So thank you very much again for your sharing about how it's worked for you. And you actually have some clients with some big files too. I mean, I kind of remember that. Some of your nonprofits have very large files too. So anyway.
The old files.
Yeah.
They don't like to archive.
Okay. They're not believers in archiving. Anyway, thank you very much for sharing that. And we also are very fortunate to have with us another Californian, by the way, Linda Russell. Man, I thought Matthew laughing when he was talking about hurricanes. Out here we have, but see, we had our power shut down recently. So California, we do have our earthquakes and we do lose power sometimes. So, but I'm always happy to hear how Qbox works well for folks, whatever difficulty they're dealing with. So, anyway, back to Linda Russell. Linda, we're so grateful to have you here with us. She is affectionately known as the QuickBooks Queen. I'm going to quote that here. That's what her domain is. So anyway, so Linda, we're very grateful to have you here with us today. We're very grateful to have you as a Qbox user. And I'm going to turn the floor over to you, and you can share with us about your Qbox story.
Great. I love Qbox too, and I love especially how I can go into the Qbox folder and I can look and see who's working in it, or and I can tell by the email they use with different clients. I have one client that sometimes does it at home. That's one email. If they do it at the office, it's a different email. But for me, the really special thing is the when somebody goes into the file and they hide the little message that keeps telling them that their work isn't being saved because they didn't lock the file. And I've had that happen a couple times. One time I noticed it by looking at it in the little Qbox dashboard on our computer. And I actually am about 10 minutes from their location. So I was actually able to drive there. And I double checked with TS. I called and got TS on the phone. And I said, TS, if I back up after they do all their work and then restore that backup, then if I go let it sync up with all the work and actually lose it because it's not syncing, but then open up, lock it, and restore that file, will that work? And he said yes. Now I want to also point out what you're doing now and what you started doing. I think it was a month or two, maybe it was 6 months ago, but what you started doing was this. You started letting people know when they hadn't maybe locked the file. And there is this Qbox recovery folder right here. And then here is copy number 1 that was made when the person didn't lock the file. And there's a number of different ways you can open that file and then use it. And that is that you can open it and put it back in the Qbox folder. But if somebody else has actually gone in and done a bunch of work since then, you don't want to open it and overwrite the work the other person did. And so what I did was I just came and opened up that folder, and I did a copy of the check register showing all the splits and everything. It was a whole bunch of deposits the person had made. So it made it, and then I emailed the PDF to them. And they were able to re-enter all of the data that they had entered by me simply just restoring it and printing it to PDF. So there are so many ways that you make it so easy when we make mistakes. I also, with my clients, one of the things I do is I tell them, like, not to get nervous and tense about it, because there's always an answer here somewhere. Like if some little kid comes, you're working on QuickBooks, and your grandchild comes over and starts banging on the computer and messes everything all up, you just close it, and then you let me know, and I return to the one before you started to do work. And so that is just such a joy to be able to do that for my clients. The other thing is, I think this Qbox is by far the best program for people that have a slow internet. This particular client that had the problem, there was actually one lady working in one office, and she finished working and closed it, and it was syncing, but the other lady in the next office knew she was out, so she went in, but it couldn't be locked because it hadn't finished syncing yet. Their particular file on their internet would take about 15 minutes to sync because their internet was that slow. Now, since then, they've got a faster internet, and they can't believe how much faster it is now. And I said, well, it's your internet. But I've shown them, and I always teach them how in the Qbox you can actually watch that little status bar, and it tells you it's 23%, 24%, 40%. And you can see the progress of it. So you just always want to be watching that, because then you know when it releases the sync, because you're paying attention for that. So anyway, I just thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much. And actually, reading what we said, and I'm going to see the doctor, we have a very conscious, we have a group of very conscientious users that always want to do everything we can to protect our users. So that recovery folder, actually, if someone works in a file and mistakenly doesn't lock it, then what Qbox has done over the last couple of years was when it went to sync down an update to a user, it would do a spot check, and if the instance it was syncing down didn't match, it would throw a copy into recovery. So recently, the engineers raised the bar even higher. So now the recovery folder keeps 2 copies, and it'll message the user, like Linda mentioned, just letting them know, hey, this file's been stagnant for a while. Maybe you want to take a look or see a backup. So we're just trying to make people more aware of that, because on the support side, of course, when you have someone, again, I had 2 yesterday, and really, when someone works on a file for 6-7 hours, they forget to lock it. Boy, you're their best friend when you tell them, hey, I think I got a way to save your data. So, and as Linda mentioned, that's why I always encourage people when they run into any sort of problem with Qbox, they call us right away when things look quirky, because the further down the road you get, it becomes problematic, because we are working in a situation where we're taking snapshots of the file within a certain period of time. So if someone does, a lot of subsequent work, we end up, basically saying, okay, someone's going to have to lose out and someone's going to win. So, so the sooner they call our support team, the more readily we can help them in most cases. So thank you very much for that. And we do hope, we hope that we'll find that you have an issue. The reality is sometimes things just happen. I mean, we don't necessarily know why sometimes. Again, we had an update on a couple of our apps, including our voice server system recently, and they think they've come up with their clever way to do it. They don't realize they're creating conflicts with other software. So anyway, thank you very much again, Linda. And last but certainly not least, we do have Casey with us, who's been very patient, waiting and eager. First one here, so I'm going to turn this over to Casey, who is a West Coast person. I can't see California, but you're at least West Coast, right? You're in that Oregon area. And so we really appreciate being here. We appreciate your representation of Qbox, and looking forward to tell us about your Qbox experience.
So I'm going to apologize for Chris's phone having some audio problems, but I think we could all tell what he was saying. And thanks for having me as a guest. So I started out with Qbox for myself. I just thought, I don't know if this is good for my clients, but I'm going to give it a shot for myself because I traveled a lot. So it was a pain in the, for me to make the backup from my desktop computer and restore it to my laptop every time I traveled, and then restore from the laptop backup back to the desktop, and constantly moving my data file back and forth. So I found that Qbox really solved a huge problem for me. It was really convenient. Once I was convinced that it was going to be a lifesaver in terms of convenience, I started recommending it to my clients. Now, I'm not a bookkeeper. I don't have ongoing clients and accounting services or anything. I'm a reseller and consultant. And I focused on the clients in my database who I thought would most benefit from Qbox. In the beginning, those were point of sale users. So it was the people who had retail outlets. They were using QuickBooks point of sale for their stores, and they had to have their QuickBooks file either on the point of sale cash register computer or on a hardwired networked computer in the back office of the store, which meant that basically their bookkeeping had to be done at the store, and that was not particularly convenient for either the owner or the bookkeeper or whomever. So with Qbox, the store could actually outsource the bookkeeping to somebody who lived totally somewhere else with a copy of that QuickBooks financial file, and all they had to do is make sure they weren't using it at the time the store closed down, at the end of the store day when POS syncs to QuickBooks Financial. That's the only time POS needs that data file. All of the rest of the time, the bookkeeper could be in the file, doing the regular books. The owner could be at home receiving in inventory, into the, not the inventory, but doing the books anyway. it turned out to be kind of a godsend for the point of sale clients. So once they were really happy with it, I thought, well, who else is a primary target? And I thought, you know, it's the nonprofits who rely on volunteers. I don't know how many of you have nonprofit clients who are having the books done by volunteers, but those volunteers don't want to go to the office to do their little bit, you know, to help keep the books. One in particular that I had 4 different volunteers helping to keep the books. So one did accounts payable, one did accounts receivable, one added new members, one did the reconciliation. We moved them off of QBO, which they didn't like, put QuickBooks on all of their computers in their homes. They all got Qbox, and it was going great. It solved a huge problem for them. The only problem they encountered was when their accountant used Qbox for the first time, they opened the data file from the wrong QuickBooks and upgraded the data file from the 2016 QuickBooks to the 2018 QuickBooks, and then none of the volunteers could get into the file anymore. So here's another reason why Qbox having redundant copies saves the day. I just told them, call Qbox. So they called in, and Qbox restored an earlier version to everybody's computer. The accountant had to re-enter her adjusting journal entries, but it didn't matter. It meant she didn't have to pay the lawsuit from fouling up, you know, the books for this really big organization. So, you know, it just solves a myriad of problems. And I think there are a lot of applications that people aren't even aware of because it's so versatile.
People are talking about my audio. So thank you very much, Casey. And you actually touched on, it's funny that the history someone else talked about, rolling back a file, which you just mentioned. Probably our largest use case for that is people that inadvertently upgrade a file, a financial professional. They're just busy and they open and they bounce it to a newer version, and Mr. Client's saying, are you trying to tell me that I got to buy new software or something? And so when they call us, they're very happy to hear we can roll back to them, you know, right before they made that change. So it is a, you know, saving face for the financial professional usually, and makes the client very happy. So, but anyway, thank you very much, Casey, for sharing. We're happy to hear Qbox has been working well for you. And we also have another very esteemed guest with us. He's been waiting patiently. Are you there, TS? He's actually down the hall, but he's on his own time. There he is. So TS is actually one of the founders of this crazy company, and he, of course, oversees our engineers. He's probably the one that is most concerned about the clients receiving a quality product at all times. So it's always a pleasure to have him here with us. He, as I joked with Matthew earlier, he is someone that's not really big on these types of settings or going to the shows, but he is very much the heart and soul of this company. So I'm excited to hear from TS, and he's going to talk about some of the things that are upcoming with Qbox. So without any further ado, TS, you have 7 minutes. So if you see me doing this, that means cut it off.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Thank you all. I want to thank all the panelists for sharing their experiences with us. It's always gratifying to understand how people are using Qbox, and we continuously seek feedback that we feed back into engineering, whether it is a feature enhancement or a problem. Either way, we keep feeding back these things to our engineering so that we add these features to Qbox. Now, it has been 1 year since I came on this panel, so a lot of things have changed. I don't exactly remember what additions we made over the last 1 year, but I do want to talk about a couple of recent enhancements that we have released. One is the fast sync. It looks like we kind of pre-announced it in a newsletter. A lot of people started calling us saying that, hey, where is fast sync? How do I use it? Then we realized that we hadn't yet enabled it. So I'm really sorry for that. But the newsletter was going out on Tuesday, so I wanted to include that in the newsletter. So the way fast sync will work is we have to enable it. Once we enable it, you will see a fast sync option under your settings. The default will be disabled, so it'll work at the same speed as before. But if you want to enable it, you check a box, and then that enables the fast sync. And depending on your processor type and then your internet speed, your sync speed should increase to up to 4 times. If you have a really good processor, a modern i7 multi-threaded processor and a good internet speed, 5 megabit per second or 10 megabit per second up and down, then you should see a good speed improvement. We also have now a box called Pause Sync, that is pausing. So if you happen to be sitting at an airport using your mobile hotspot to connect to the internet, you don't need to waste your bandwidth on the mobile, the data on your mobile. You can put the pause sync, and you have the ability to lock the file and work on it. So when you close it, it's not going to sync. And then when you connect back to your internet in your office or home on the Wi-Fi, you can enable it back and sync all the changes that you made. So that's the advantage of Qbox. The file is physically located on your local drive, and you can work on it as long as you have logged it before opening the file, working on the file. I also want to touch upon the recovery messages, some of the things that Linda outlined here. We have added a few more recovery messages. Initially, I think we kind of overdid it. It was showing a false message even when there was no activity. And we quickly realized that problem and we fixed it. But now you will see that you're getting an alert if you worked on a file without locking it, and then somebody else's change is going to sync down, or your Qbox was not even running. For some reason, your antivirus knocked it out, or a Windows 10 update knocked it out, and you don't even realize that Qbox was not running and worked on the file. And then when Qbox starts, it'll tell you that, hey, looks like you worked on some files. We are going to copy it to your recovery folder so you can go and find it if some messages, some data is missing. So it makes up to 2 copies. If you didn't lock the file, worked on it, it makes a copy as copy 1. And if you didn't see it, again, you didn't lock the file, again worked on it, now it goes to copy 2. So if you are missing some data, go and look at the copy 1 and copy 2, and most likely you'll find the data in that file. And you can rename the file and copy it back into the Qbox Explorer and sync it back and get back to working. Apart from these, I want to touch upon a couple of AI initiatives that we are doing in the company. This is artificial intelligence. So I don't know if you have noticed on your Qbox Explorer, there is a link called have a question. So when you click on it, it brings up a bot, right on the Qbox Explorer. It's an AI chat bot, and there's no human being behind it. So it can answer most of your question as long as you are clear about it, right? If you were to ask, I forgot my password, how do I reset my password? It's going to tell you how to reset your password, right? If you ask a question, how do I share my folder? It's going to tell you how you can share a folder, give you a clear instruction. But if you're vague, and we find that many people want to ask questions the way they ask a human being. If you're vague, saying that, hey, I'm so frustrated, I have not been able to log in, my password used to be my mother-in-law's birthday, now I don't know what the password is, can you please help? It gets confused, and it may not even give an answer. So we see that we are watching these question answer sessions in the background, and we always it's AI driven. It's actually a Google technology that we are using in the background, and we continuously improve it. But this natural language processing has some limits in today's technology. So as long as you realize that it is a bot and ask the question crisply, or as clearly as possible. You can say that I forgot my password, please help me reset it. It's going to help you, right? So that's available to you readily, right? You don't have to call a support number. You don't have to go on the chat and wait for a chat agent to come online. Right there, you can ask a question, and most of the time it's going to answer the question. Unless you have a specific, like a sync error, then it may not be able to help you. So that is one AI initiative. The second thing that we are working on, this is still a lab project. We have a prototype working in the lab, is a data entry assistant. So you have seen a lot of people like Receipt Bank and even QBO has the ability to OCR the receipts and feed it into QBO. We are working on that technology as well, and we are trying to figure out how best to introduce it. So you can bring up an image of a receipt which has been uploaded to a folder, and the OCR engine will pull out the data from the receipt and show you in a separate template, and then you can push it to QBO or a QuickBooks desktop company that you have linked it to. So this is already kind of a proven technology, but we also want to offer it along with others. It's just that it'll be a nice addition to the Qbox users, at least in our reckoning. And we will be putting some AI processing in the background. So depending on, as you collect the receipts, as the number of data points keep increasing, our objective is to do the prediction as to how the receipt should be kind of categorized, etc., and make it easier and easier for the data entry operator to send this data. So we're trying to make it easier for them, save time and pain that's doing in the data entry. So that's another AI initiative going on in the lab, and as soon as we know that it's working well, we will make an announcement. And our intention is to first show it to some beta users, take their feedback, and based on that, make the improvements, and then release the product. Finally, I do want to touch upon another product. This is not related to Qbox, but we have released a product by name Qbox. So that Qbox product is meant for the building design industry. So it has the ability to lock and sync Autodesk engineering software projects like AutoCAD and then Revit. It also has the ability to sync project drawings, help you make markups. So we have already some users testing it out. Basically, these are architects and builders that they are testing it out, and they'll be, as soon as we have a good feedback, we'll be doing a full-fledged marketing release. So that's on the engineering segment. I just wanted to mention that here as another product that we have developed in marketing. So with that, Chris, I don't have anything else. I'll be happy to take questions later on. I can't hear you.
He said, one thing I really, can you guys hear me? You can't hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me now? Okay. One thing I really enjoyed about working with Qbox and Quilltree is TS most specifically. It's interesting. I saw Misha signing in here earlier. The FAST, we've talked about it for a while, but they're very rigorous in their testing and making sure things work. In fact, TS itself is one of those folks that really wants to make sure we're putting out a quality product or enhancement. So we're very good about not releasing things prematurely and making sure that it's a good fit for the product, it's actually going to work. And of course, nothing's perfect, so we do learn things along the way, and TS takes that back to the engineering team. But they've done an exceptional job on creating a very robust product. And now we do also have a product that's more specific to the building industry, as TS talked about, called Qbox, and I think some of you have talked about it in the past. And so that's, folks that are using that in beta, had some very positive responses so far, so that's something that unrelated to Qbox. Qbox definitely is our flagship product. We're very grateful for all of our users. We're grateful for the panel that we have here today. And we would like to, at this point, go ahead and open it up. I see some questions. I don't know if I can answer, but maybe people on the panel can help me. But I would like to go ahead and open it up for any questions that folks have. If you want to send them in on the chat, one of us here, we've got a whole group of experts here, can answer those very readily or possibly take them offline if we need to. So with that, we're going to go ahead and open it up for some questions. I think quite a few streaming up, some of them from the panel, but actually, just to answer a question from the panel, the fast link is going to be released Friday night, right? Yeah.
Yeah, fasting should be released. It's a matter of enabling, so we'll enable it most likely on Friday, US time. So either Friday or Saturday it'll be enabled. After that, you should see that. You should see. If somebody wants to enable it today, please send me an email and I'll enable it for them.
So you missed that part. So Nisha, you can see I'm the sales guy. He's the engineering guy. So he told me earlier Friday night, and as I'm holding his feet to the fire, because we were telling people Monday, it's going to be on your Qbox Explorer come Friday night. So Monday when you come back to work, it'll be there. So you'll have that option. So we have some words, the best way to delete old unused QB files. That's probably a good one to take offline. I don't know if anybody wants to jump in. I mean, there's obviously a myriad of ways you can do that. Out of Qbox, if you call our support team, we can help you with that. So there is a number of different ways you can delete and remove a file. Someone else is posting. I appreciate it. Qbox tests their product first before making the customer a guinea pig. It's interesting, and I appreciate you bringing that up because it's funny. As a user myself, there's nothing more frustrating than to get some big update and then realize they're still working out the bugs and it doesn't work the way it's supposed to. So again, not that our releases are always perfect. There's some things we learn and problems that are corrected very readily thanks to TS and the team. But we thank you for that feedback because that definitely has been a priority of theirs to make sure they test, and retest before they release things to the public. So any other questions?
Chris?
I just want to add here, Chris, that for those of you who are new to Qbox, the Qbox Explorer is a window on your desktop, right? It is designed as a window right on your desktop that shows the contents of the folder. So you can use the Qbox Explorer for most of the operations like delete and rename a folder, etc., right on your desktop. But don't delete the file on the Windows side. It has to be either deleted on the Qbox Explorer or the Qbox web dashboard. Otherwise, it's not going to delete.
Thank you. And I guess I was mildly vague in my response, ambiguous, but as T.S. mentioned, we have to call and say, darn it, I deleted that file and Qbox keeps putting it back.
Right.
So look, doing its job. I don't know what to tell you. So there are ways that you can constructively remove it as long as Qbox is in the loop with that process and knows that you want to remove it. So does MU version work with peer networks? The answer is yes. So that's something that we've enabled a few months ago because honestly we found that we have some folks that are very good at doing it, but it takes quite a bit of time. So we do have the ability. Normally we set up a separate service call. Usually it's anywhere from $50 to $100. But we help using the Windows control. We help set up a designated network for that particular file, and we can help you construct a peer-to-peer to make it work with the Qbox MU in your local environment. And again, there's a couple other criteria for that. First of all, for security reasons, we require that they're on the same private email domain as anybody else that's using, within that same network. So, but if those things are in line, then we're more than happy to help you with setting up peer-to-peer. So here's another one. Currently, my client's scanning all his little bills and dropping them in Dropbox or choosing bills from QBO and save one to QBO. Is there a way he can use Qbox directly for all his scan bills? That's probably another good one to bring offline. I know some panelists here. We have a lot of experts that can help with the answer to that, or you can call our support team. Because the answer is most probably yes, but I don't think it's probably appropriate to dive into that here. It would take up the 5 minutes we have left and then some. So we'd be happy to answer that for you, though. Thank you, Casey, for bringing that up. just to make sure, folks that aren't familiar with Qbox, you can also in your Qbox folder, you can share other file types. So Qbox is aware of not all file types. Sometimes you get that question, but you can share, of course, a QuickBooks desktop file, but also any of the Office formats, so Word, Excel, PowerPoint Access, and also image files, so the traditional PDFs, JPEGs, PNGs. Those are also eligible to be shared within a folder. And the cool thing about Qbox is that each sync folder, which is our cost unit, has 10 gigabytes of capacity. So we get asked that quite frequently. Can I put more than one QuickBooks file into that folder if I need to share for whatever reason and make sure that person's business? And the answer is absolutely yes. And even better than that, Qbox does lock at the file level. So you can have one file that's being accessed and locked and edited by one person, and the others are still available for edits to the other users, so shared users of that folder. So thank you for that reminder.
Hey, Chris,
RTF files added. Yes.
there's a really important question. People want to know, when are they going to see some new colors for those cool Qbox t-shirts?
Oh my God. All the important questions. So, you know, that's a long answer too, because again, you look at a guy that just is not the expert, and I've had people like Allison, who is over here, by the way, and she's actually here today, and congratulating her on her new beautiful baby girl. So, anyways, it's funny, people like the black shirt. I don't know what it is. Last year at QB Connect, you know, I came up with this design and thought it was the coolest thing ever, and people come up and say, where are the black ones? So we actually QB Connect this year, and I have the same shirts we had at the calendar that say I love Qbox. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but people seem to like the black shirts. I don't know why. So, and we actually, the desktop signs, those really are, we don't have any more of those. Those were an original model that we made that had Qbox in the front. So hang on to those. Those may be collector's items. I don't know. I need blue or teal Qbox shirts. Okay. We'll work on that. We'll have a Sharks theme, since we're here in San Jose, a Sharks theme Qbox shirt. So.
Get some blue in there.
And I did see a question about RTF files. That's probably a good one to take up with my good friend here at TS. I would say the answer at this moment is no, but him being an engineering personality can probably answer that more readily. So. Okay, well, we are kind of winding down to the end of our hour and want to respect everyone's schedule today. I think yesterday was an important day, I think, if you're a financial professional or something. And people actually like yell at me in the morning, like, what's the matter with you? So I'm not an accountant, but I do realize the 15th is an important day in October. So anyway, so thank you very much again for our panel. We really appreciate each and every one of you not only participating today, but your past promotion and use of Qbox. We're incredibly grateful for that. We do have some announcements for 2020, which I think I'm going to hold until December. We're still working on finalizing the ability to offer CPE credits for our desktop time webinars, and we're getting closer, but we're still not quite there. So hopefully by our December desktop time, we'll be able to announce that that's going to be in place for January. We do not, as we've done in the past, we're taking the month of November off because third Wednesday ends up really close to Turkey Day. So some people that just doesn't work for them. Doesn't work for me either, to be honest. So, but we look forward to seeing you back in December. We do have ZenWorks with us in December, and I cannot remember who our guest host is, but we appreciate each and every one of you. We thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us each time, and we look forward to having you back with us in December. And thank you again to our panel. And everyone, I hope you all have a very wonderful day, and thank you again. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.